church is where um, you are the one that's going to be speaking, and so people kind of cater for you a little differently. And you go in with jeans and t-shirt, and you're just a visitor. Reaction sometimes is different. And so, Tony, I kind of come with this with a little bit more passion, um, because I'm invested in what we're doing here at Three Angels. Are you? Hello? Are you? Yeah. So, why is this important to me here um, at Three Angels? Because truly, if you think about all the people who have passed through, maybe you're like me, you're asking the question afterwards, why didn't they come back? But there are a wide variety of reasons people don't come back, right? There are quite a few, many, many reasons. And some of them have to do with just the simple fact that people are searching. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're not good people here or we don't have good people here. But I want to zero in on um, a mini survey that I've kind of conducted under the covers, just being here for the last 4 years or so in this congregation. Some of the things that we'll kind of share now are coming from individuals who, well, we won't be able to go through all of them, but coming from individuals who are currently here. So without any further ado, just for kind of warm up, sense that we're waiting for that time when we do that planning, right? And I think they're waiting for you, Pastor, to kind of start the planning so they could, get down into the real deal, um, you know. But if you have someone beside you, I just want you to give them one thing that you like about this church. Just tell somebody. Just find someone. If you're sitting by yourself, I'm just going to ask you. I'm just going to ask you, please. Okay. Am I doing something wrong here? I'd switch it. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he's gonna have to reset it.
Okay. All right.
There we go.
So here we are. One thing that you like about our church. Anyone wants to just share what you gathered from the person next to you, around you? Dave? The people and the food. All right. Say that again. Spirituality. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Friendly. And we unite. Okay. Love. All right. Very good. Diversity. All right. Very good. Activities. Welcoming. Yeah. Pastor.
Culture, big family atmosphere, and that we're not like ultra conservative, ultra liberal, but moderate, focused,
Yeah, Renee?
I was just gonna say my answer is a little selfish, but my husband actually answered yesterday as a lifetime. He is not Seventh-day Adventist either.
Wow, very good. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing this. And I think it's important for all of us to hear, you know, because I think having gotten here 2019, um, a lot of us here weren't here at the time, 2019. And the truth is, this is not in my presentation here, but the church has changed, right? Some of you are here, 2019. The church has changed drastically. There's growth numerically and location, of course, right? And we remember coming here in 2019. We were looking at primarily what I would say it was post-pandemic, and we're moving from the pandemic, or if I would say post-pandemic trauma of persons really not wanting to come out, right, to now where people are coming out. People are wanting to be at a place where they feel a little bit more comfortable. So let's think about it. Um, the post-pandemic church experience is different, right? We have been worshiping and experiencing the fact that we can worship it in a more convenient setting, right? You know, I've heard so many people saying that they go to church laying down in bed. They don't have to dress up. They just probably lay down in bed, put their PJs on, sit on the couch, and they're at church. This virtual experience. But the truth is, much has changed from 2019 to now, 2024. A lot has changed. And I think the dynamics of what we're dealing with and what we're looking at in our congregation is people actually owning up to the fact that it's important to be in the presence of other believers. As much as there are times when, you know, we might be tired working a busy job and a hectic schedule for the week, we've found that it is very, very important to be in the presence of fellow believers. I'm telling you, when I leave here on Sabbaths, I have so much energy that it's fun. I'm normally an energetic person anyway, but just being in the presence of persons who believe like I believe, I mean, the worship experience, that is such a motivation and a boost for me going into the next week. Does that happen to you? You know, and so it matters where we worship. It does. So when we think about where we are now, we have to think about the fact that the church is a place of refuge. The Acts of the Apostles, two books that I've been, reading side by side, Acts of the Apostles, and of course you have the Testimonies for the Church, Volume 6, right? I think every leader needs to read those two books. Acts of the Apostles, the church is God's appointed agency for the salvation of men. Is this convincing? Do you believe this? Yeah. It was organized for service, and its mission is to carry the gospel to the world. So we're moving from the pandemic, post-pandemic, and we're now at a time when individuals are looking for a church home, right? And as leaders, we have to ask ourselves the question, why should someone choose this church? Why should someone choose this church? Now, if you're like me, when you go into stores, you hate to be harassed. I just don't like it. I want to go there. If I'm picking up something, I don't want that salesperson to be bothering me and over my shoulder all the time. You've ever experienced that? You just go somewhere, I just want to buy something in peace. Whatever it is that you're buying, just want to buy it in peace. And for me personally, I think church can easily become like that. You know, research has shown that there are two extremes to congregations. Bill Hybels did a study not too long ago coming out of the pandemic, and he suggests that what he's found is that there's the over-the-top church, and then there's the insider-focused church. The over-the-top church has a giant spotlight on visitors. And as a visitor, it doesn't matter where you go in that congregation, that spotlight is on you. That's over the top. And people get uncomfortable. And I'll have the references back here. You could go and read the research. This is about 6 researches in all coming together to put together this few slide that we'll talk about here. But he's suggesting that we have to move away from being that over-the-top congregation that zero in so much on the guest that they become uncomfortable. And then he says there's the other side of the coin. In the research, he explains, he went into even more details talking about the congregation that is insider focus. Have we ever heard about this kind of congregation? Insider congregation, he said they focus on getting their seats, that they're oblivious to guests. And we're creatures of habit, aren't we? I mean, ever since we've been coming to this location here, if you don't see me in that spot over there, it's highly probable I'm not here. We're creatures of admission, I mean, right there. Right? We are creatures of habit. You can look for certain people at a certain spot, and if you don't see them, if I don't see Esteban there, somewhere over here, they're not here. So I knew you weren't here yesterday. Right? And this is really how we are. But Bill Hybels, in collaboration with John Hagee and a couple of other pastors who were collective in the study, suggested that the insider focus congregation also is an extreme. Because instead of giving some attention to the things that really, really matter, it's we get through the doors and we storm straight to get to our seats because we don't want anyone to get the seat. And we put our bags there. And I mean, just think about it. I mean, when I read this thing, I was like, he is so correct. And it's so practical because of the creature of habit we are. That's just who we are. I'm not suggesting that by any means that, we shouldn't, wanting to sit a certain place, because that's just how we move like that, right? For those of you who've been in the Army all these years, You kind of have a methodical way of doing things. And we bring that, we have that in the church as well. But I think the crux of the research was to help our congregations to move in a direction where we have a unique balance, where we care about people so much that I cannot just, like what Pastor just mentioned, we cannot be on a hurry to make sure that I get my spot in church and nobody else gets it. So we pass someone along the way who really asks you the question, how was your week? And we have to ask ourselves, what does this have to do with visitors? A lot. I was at, and I think I was sharing a little bit about this with Pastor. I was at a church last week, and it was a bad experience when visitors are in your congregation and they're harassed by a member because of that positional authority. I left my bag here, and when I got back, the ushers took my bag up so that a visitor could sit there. And I was so upset that the usher took my bag up to give the visitor a seat. I cannot stay at church today because you gave my seat to somebody who is there for the very first time. I wonder about that attitude. Is that Christ-like? So right away, if you were that visitor and you are in the midst of that commotion, what would your reaction be? Would this be a time for you to tell the pastor, listen, I am transferring my membership right here. I want to be here so bad. This is such a warm church. I want to be here. Probably not. Probably not. So how do you create an atmosphere then to attract and keep visitors, right? I don't think these studies were exhaustive in what they gave and what they suggested, and so I pulled from them. I put some of the responses that I've gotten from individuals that I've talked to privately, and these are some of the things. They're not necessarily in any priority and order. Creating a culture of hospitality. What do you think about this? What is this? When you think about creating a culture of hospitality, what comes to mind for you? Yeah. This to me is really, really big. And parents, you think about hospitality and what they have found in the study, and we know this very well. It's almost like a review, right? Hospitality begins before the visitor steps through the door, right? Might I add, it begins in the parking lot, right? We don't have those kind of parking lots where we have to walk almost a mile and take a bus from the parking lot to the congregation. But how could we build a culture of hospitality beginning from outside, right? Where you park your car, I've seen where where individuals are visiting, or you've been to churches where you're visiting, and the way people park, they have such a nice car, and I don't want you to hit my car, so I'm going to park in 2 spots. Everything adds up. And the research is show that if you can win an individual before they get to the door, you got them. And by the time you get to the door, if I meet someone who's telling me happy Sabbath and that person is not exuding happiness, it's sending a wrong message. I like when I enter a congregation, and as soon as I enter a congregation, I'm meeting individuals who are happy to see me. I don't know you, but you're still happy to see me. And this started for us ever since we were at the other church property. Walk into that, walk through that door, and there's someone there who is smiling, who is kind, who is warm. I asked 10 persons about 3 weeks ago what they thought about the hospitality and the welcome that they get when they walk into the church, and 7 out of 10 were highly positive. I wish I could do this quantitative study and bring it in so that you could see that what we have been doing here at the door, and kudos to the ushers and the greeters, right? What we have been doing here is working, where people feel welcome when they walk inside the congregation. And it ought to be like that. We're lifting a big load off the head of individuals when we greet them at the door and help them to understand that you're wanted here, right? There's another thing here, a friendly atmosphere to welcome visitors. People should have a consistent welcoming experience from the parking lot, so forth, etc. And then I talked about the logistical flow, right? This reduces visitor stress and frustration. I hate to go to a church where I'm confused. I don't know where to go. Where do I go? And so this is where those who are working outside, right? And a pastor probably wants to do, some kind of workshop later on. So the deacons, the ushers, the greeters, the deaconesses, everybody who will be in physical first contact with individuals, we're specially trained so that we don't miss a beat on how we represent the congregation and the church at large by how we receive people. Even our attire matters. The way we put ourselves together, right? I've been in congregations and spaces where I am not appalled at what meets me when a person who greets me did not practice proper hygiene that day. Right? I will not go deep into that, but I think we're all adults, and that could resonate with some of us. If you visited some places and individuals come and greet you, you could tell if there was a shower and things like that. I think it's very important that we practice proper hygiene. All right, I see a lot of smiling faces. Do you want to talk back to me? We don't have a lot of time, but it's okay. I think past 4 minutes. It's okay. I mean, this is not a training to actually have to go through all my slides. I think I'm okay with finishing here.
I think one of the strong points we have in our church is the greeters. I don't think anybody gets through the front door to leave the door without being hugged to death. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think we have great
Yeah.
people out there that make people feel welcome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as we think about the greeters, right? And I think what we talked about as elders, that hopefully we'll be able to, do a little bit more hands-on and so forth. One of the things that we need to notice, I went and talked to Lathan's yesterday about um, 11:35 when I was sitting here and I noticed that persons were coming in and they were, after they come through the door, they were standing at the back because um, probably ran out of seats. But I still think that one of the things that we could probably work on and tighten up is when we bring guests in, we help them to find a seat, right? Um, and it's probably a part of just our bag holding mentality. We hold our seats for our friends or for family members who probably are coming in, but I want for us to become more conscious of our guests and even other members who are coming in trying to find a seat, right? Um, Persons came out yesterday, and I could see persons standing at the back, and they were looking, to find where to sit. I know that we're recording this, but I'd love to probably just show an illustration. So, persons come in, guests come in. One of the things that we could do, whether usher or deacon or elders, if you're at the door, we walk them in, and we stop here, and we see a family of three, on the end, and these are empty right here. Then we probably have one or two persons. Then we bring the guests in, and we ask, either you ask the family members kind of scoot together, come close together, so that it's not as difficult for them to find a seat, right? I feel bad when I go to a church and if members don't want to move to, to facilitate me in that role, right? How do you feel about that, right? Right, right, right,
Let them know how many seats we need to be seated.
right.
We need four seats.
Right. So we'll. I think this is something that we're working on, and as our church grows, we kind of do these practical pieces, right? Because I like that. Whether it's two ushers, you have one usher on that side, one usher here. You have different ways to do it, and we signal to the other person, hey, we have two spots or what have you, because Paris again. Okay. Okay. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yes. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Sam. Yeah. 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 I agree. Yeah. Mhm. 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 Yeah. Dave?
I was going to make an announcement to the members to start to get closer. And
Mhm.
then just to put it out there, to get in people's minds that we
Mhm.
need to start
Mhm.
stopping with the multiple seats being scheduled. Yeah.
Yeah.
In case
And
there's for visitors.
that's, yeah. We could do something from up here,
And
But
just keep doing it, then people will start to think about it a lot more.
yeah, yeah. So much we could talk about, right? Just so much we could talk about because as we have the key leaders here, what you get from here, then you kind of have it trickle down to the other people on your team, right? The other people, you talk to the other people on your team, and then I think we could work together. So you talk about visitors. Why? Ask yourself the question: why should they return, right? And we talked a little bit about hospitality, right? And I want to end with this here. Hospitality is not about entertaining; it's about engaging, right? And there's a whole lot on here, because believe it or not, the study has also proven that as much as we think about Gen X and a younger population, you think about, okay, why do they come to church or why would they return to church? A lot of people think it's the drums and it's the music and so forth, etc., etc. The study has proven wrong. That as wrong, because the music may be nice, and I like good music. Michelle, don't get me wrong. I really like good music. I think we're doing a great job here, right? But at the core is, are people engaged, right? And it starts from leadership. The study shows that when you have an authentic leader, which is all of us, connecting and engaging with guests, the chances are more likely than not that they will leave with an impression and they will tell their friends and then they will be back because they have leaders that are really authentic and stuff like that. The study continues and shows us that regardless of how we see it, and we think, okay, if you have great music and all of those things, we'll have everybody flooding the church. Those things are nice. But sometimes the emotional piece wear off. And the study says people are looking for, they will come back to a church that is Bible based. And I hope that as a congregation, as leaders, we don't lose that. That's the identifying mark of a church that will last long, right? Actually, the model that Hiram Edson, and most of these gentlemen who established our church, the model is not to have the mega church mentality. The model is, if you go back to 1947, when they instituted the 17th church doctrine, and they established that doctrine of the church, it was that by the time we get to 250, then the church begins to think about planting a baby somewhere, having a baby somewhere. 250.
Which we can't do.
Right? And so what that is really saying for us is, we want to build a congregation that is warm, that is personable, and that is family friendly, right? It would be surprising too. We talk about it all the time. Sometimes we're so tired, and the kids will say, we want to go to church. And the study goes on to prove that the church that is kids-centric, I'm telling you, this study is really, I know you're into those things, Esteban. The church that is kids-friendly, people will always want to come back. Because at this stage of the game, we are somewhat established in our faith, and we're thinking about our children. What will our children get when they leave church? Would it be an environment where they want to come back? And if the kids want to come back, it's highly probable the adults will be back. That's all we have time to cover today. Pastor?
Appreciate it. Thank
Yes,
you.
you're welcome.